The Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, joins us tonight right here in the studio. Let's check it out. And welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. Democrats made last week's elections all about affordability, and to their credit, it appears that that did work. In New Jersey, we had very high hopes about Jack Ciattarelli, a great guy. He lost by 14 points to a very meager opponent. And though the big races were all in blue states, and we certainly noticed that, Democrats did outperform expectations, partly by hammering the cost of living, hitting Trump for not magically making everything 2019 cheap again in the opening months of his term. The same people who destroyed your paycheck by using COVID as an excuse to print trillions and grow our government like a tumor are now slamming the president for not flipping our cost of living disaster on a dime.
Democratic candidates prevailed up and down the ballot, focused on affordability, as opposed to the extremism that we've seen unleashed on everyday Americans by Donald Trump.
We've heard about, golden bathrooms, his new ballroom. We've heard about really everything but affordability.
Donald Trump is fundamentally failing on the issue that matters most to voters.
Donald Trump said he would make us wealthier and healthier. We're poorer and sicker.
Affordability and authoritarianism. That's the current axis of American politics right now.
It's about as dirty as politics gets. Skyrocket the cost of living, then use it as a political weapon mere months after losing power. That's Washington. That's politics. And the truth is, with winning an election comes owning the problems that you inherit. And the White House needs a big mop to clean up Joe Biden. This morning, our Treasury Secretary went to MSNBC to push back on the left's economic narratives in this country, including one criticism that's been everywhere these last couple weeks, even 60 Minutes. The claim that billions of our dollars have been given to Argentina to prop up the government of Javier Milei as he fights to untether his country from socialism. MSNBC made this claim this morning. They really regretted it about 1 minute later. Take a listen to this.
Amid this discussion of costs and prices and affordability, how does a $20 billion bailout of Argentina help Americans?
Do you know what a swap line is?
It's currency swap, yes.
Yes, but what is that?
You're the Treasury Secretary.
Yes, but why would you call it a bailout?
That is how...
In most bailouts, you don't make money. The U.S. government made money.
Oops. The Treasury Secretary, Bessent, joins us now to talk about this. Sir, good to have you here in the studio.
Hey, Rob, good to see you again.
That was, I thought, the best moment of the morning. I enjoyed watching it. The entire media, and I mean the entire media, has been slamming you and the Democrat Party as well for this move that was made with Milei. They know Milei is a very close friend of the president's, their allies. But it sounds like nobody actually knows exactly what you guys have just done. And I think everybody figured it out this morning.
I think so, Rob. And look, we used the U.S. balance sheet to bolster a great ally of the United States. I call it the peace through economic strength. And
Right.
How much better to put up the credit and full faith in the United States government, make money, and bolster an ally rather than end up with something like we've got with the Maduro regime, where we're having to target these drug ships and take military action. The question was, how is this good for Americans? It's great for Americans because we are taking back Latin America through our economic leadership. There will be no bullets. Chile has an election coming up. Bolivia just had an election. First time in 20 years they've gone center-right. They have embraced the U.S.
Yeah.
Paraguay, Ecuador.
Yeah.
So our whole hemisphere is coming our way, and the Obama administration had the same opportunity, and over their 8 years blew it. And I promise you, President Trump does not want that to happen here.
Right, and to the people that are thinking America first, as you said, this is a line of credit, and when it's borrowed on, we make money, I believe, on the interest, right? And they pay back with interest.
Well, they pay back with interest, but the way to think about it is, like, maybe for your first loan, your parents co-signed for it.
Sure.
We basically co-signed, and we are getting a big fee.
Yep.
It's from something called the Exchange Stabilization Fund. Exchange Stabilization Fund has never lost money. And by the way, where were the same people when the Clinton administration used Exchange Stabilization Fund in 1995 for Mexico? That made a huge profit.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, you're not giving away money, and that's what people really care. That was what they tried to stick on you. I mean, even 60 Minutes tried to stick it to you with that farmer story over the weekend that I saw.
Yeah, I don't watch 60 Minutes anymore, so it's a lost cause. Only when the president's on.
Oh yeah, well that was a high-rated episode, right? I want to talk about affordability. The president says cost of living issues are being manufactured by the media. At the same time, and that is happening, but at the same time, there is a general feeling that life is still very expensive, because of course it is. We just went through a hell of a lot of inflation the last couple of years, like the kind we haven't seen in 40 or 50 years. Those prices are still elevated. We're having, inflation's down. It's still sticky at around 3%, maybe a little under 3%. It seemed like this morning you admit that, cost of living is still expensive in this country, but there's things in motion that you believe are going to move us in the other direction. It's like turning the Titanic, right? It takes time to get these things going.
Yeah, well, it's also, if the house got burned down, you got to rebuild starting with the foundation, Rob.
Yeah.
And I think what the president is frustrated by is the media narrative, because the media narrative, the 2021, 22, 23, and even 24 during the campaign was Americans don't know how good they have it. It's a vibe session. I still remember that word. And everyone from the New York Times to former Fed vice chair to the Wall Street Journal even, they said it was a vibe session. And instead of owning the inflation, they just said, the American people don't understand how they're feeling. And we came in, we inherited a mess. We have brought the inflation down. And Rob, there are two ways for curing affordability. There's bringing inflation down, because some of the prices we are going to be able to bring down. So energy prices, gasoline,
down quite a bit.
4-year low.
Yeah.
4-year low. Mortgage rates, when the president was January 20th, when the president came in, 30-year mortgage, 7.08. Yesterday, 6.22.
Yes.
That's a huge move.
It's a big difference. Yeah.
If we can get mortgage rates down into the 5s, that will help home ownership quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I think the president is just frustrated by the narrative, because I can tell you that every day he is working for the American people. That we have nonstop, all hands on deck meetings on this.
Yeah, and I mean, the hardest thing with this country is that every 2 years you have an election. And when you got a country this big, 340 million people, making changes takes a lot of time. And I think that's the hardest thing to get through. One idea that got a lot of attention this week was the 50-year mortgage that popped up. It seems like the White House is moving away from this, and understandably. But there are some other ideas and I think one of them at least was one of your ideas that I thought were really interesting. And one of them is the portable mortgage, the ability to transfer your mortgage rate to a new property if you buy it, or the assumable mortgage, which you can assume the interest rate of the house that you just bought if they have a low rate. Talk about that, because those are actually ideas I think that Trump voters are going to love.
Right. I don't know about the assumable mortgage, but the portable mortgage is something that works very well in the UK. If you have a low rate, and there's so many people with mortgages that are 3% or below from the pre-COVID, the COVID years, that they just don't want to move. And it's that log jam that is jamming up the housing market. Someone might want to trade down to a smaller house, but why would you trade down when you have such good financing arrangements? So if you could move your mortgage and maintain the rate, it works.
Is that something that we could we do that? I mean, what would that take to get that done? Because, I mean, that's obviously a regulation, right? But that would be enormous. I mean, if you have people that have a 3% mortgage, why would they move or sell or buy in this moment?
Yeah, look, I think with President Trump, everything is on the table, because he is so interested in getting this affordability crisis fixed. And as I said this morning, and the host didn't really want to hear it, there are two ways to fix the affordability crisis. So we inherited a mess. President Trump has pushed down the rate of change. But Rob, the other way is real income growth. And during President Trump's first term, we saw the hourly workers do better than supervisory workers. We saw the bottom 50% of American households by net worth do better than the top 10%. So there will be a point, and when the chart comes out, I will come on and share it with you the first day it comes out, that inflation will turn down and real wages will turn up. And when those lines cross, which I am confident that they will, then Americans are going to feel it. Just like when they were told there's a vibe session, you don't get it. As much as the mainstream media keeps telling them there's an affordability crisis, they're going to say, things are pretty good in my household.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a Biden hangover to that, but it does seem like what you're doing has to, at some point it's going to click harder and we're going to get there. Are tariffs impacting inflation at all from what you see? I mean, everybody, even people that love you guys, that voted for you guys, I hear guys on Wall Street talk about how that's part of the reason that we're having this sticky inflation. What's happening.
They've been completely wrong.
They're wrong on that?
Completely wrong.
Okay.
I had a very good 35-year career on Wall Street by pushing back against the conventional wisdom.
Yeah.
The conventional wisdom after April 2nd was the economy's done, the market's going to crash, the dollar's toast, and it's been just the opposite.
Yeah.
Just the opposite. So we've had new highs in the stock market. If you dig down inside the data, and the pundits don't like to look at data, they like to look at narratives, and just like my friends this morning. And if you look, that goods inflation, which would be where imported inflation would show up, has been the very, very, very tame. It's been in services, which tells you that there's big demand for services. Services aren't imported; they're not tariffed.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like what you're doing is working, and the revenue seems to be rather tremendous. I mean, I'm trying to think if we can get to a place where, I think about the national debt a lot, and I think about how much we're going to inherit, and our children as well. But if you can get to a place where we can cut this government down to size, and you can also bring in a few $100 trillion a year in tariff revenue, we could almost get to a place where you might be starting to balance the budget and not be $2 trillion over every year.
Well, Rob, what's gone unnoticed in this government shutdown is we actually brought down the deficit this year.
Yeah.
It wasn't by much, it was by 1.8 trillion to 1.77 something, but it decreased. The GDP grew. So under the Biden administration, we inherited the worst deficit to GDP when we weren't in a war, weren't in a recession, 6.4, 6.5%. It now has a 5 in front of us, 5.9. And we're going to keep doing that.
Yeah.
And like the idea of tariffs is initially you take in this huge tariff income. Eventually, the factories come home, the jobs go up, tariff income gets replaced by domestic taxes. So the U.S. bond market, by the way, is the only bond market, major G7 bond market, that has lower yields on the year. And that's because our fiscal situation has improved. Right. Everyone else's has deteriorated.
It is impressive. And we're still trying to fight off what they did to this country during COVID, and the growth of that government was just so explosive. I want to talk about some of the money that's being brought in. You were just in South Carolina. You went to the Boeing, where they make the jets. They announced $1 billion investment, huge expansion, more than 1,000 jobs. You went to a rare earths magnet processing center. Everybody talking about how important this is. Trillions in new investments have been brought into this country since the president came in. I mean, we're talking about numbers so big that you can't even fathom them. It's now just about getting that money into the economy and seeing the effects of it, right?
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to go down to my hometown, home state in South Carolina and see this, because it is the beginning. Boeing is sizing up the president via these trade deals. Boeing gave him the Salesman of the Year award. He's sold more than 1,000 Boeing aircraft, and Boeing is adding, I think, a 50% capacity increase on the Dreamliners and 1,000 new jobs. This rare earth facility in Sumter, South Carolina, rural South Carolina, that I went to visit. Not only is it part of taking back our sovereignty by having rare earth production, It was a great story, Rob, because many of the workers there had worked at a Caterpillar plant that had closed.
Yeah.
And this facility went out of their way to hire those Caterpillar workers. So there were 800 construction jobs, 300 jobs in the factory, but the factory thinks that they can grow between 6 and 10x. So that could be up to 3,000 jobs in this rural area in South Carolina. It's an incredible story, but that's just the beginning. And Rob, you know why? Why is there a rare earths factory in Sumter, South Carolina? Because Governor Henry McMaster got them the permits in 8 weeks. 8 weeks. And what we are seeing, and I think we're going to get a bigger and bigger divide in this affordability crisis, is red state versus blue state.
Yeah.
At Treasury, we are now doing an analysis of inflation state by state. And there are some states that want to fight it, some states that want to cause it. The governor-elect in New Jersey came out and said, first thing I'm going to do is get energy prices down, or her predecessor is the one who put them through the roof.
Right.
So,
and they don't do anything to make them come down.
And
they have so many levers they could pull, and they don't use any of them.
Yeah, and we're sitting here in New York today. Governor Kathy Hochul has promised the administration for months, that she would be willing to put in these natural gas pipelines. Pennsylvania, next door to New York, is natural gas rich. And they're
so beholden to the climate grift that they can't just do the very easy thing to make everything less expensive.
Well, it's a decision.
Yeah.
Europe has made the decision. I'm hoping the northeastern part of the U.S. does not make the decision.
Wise up.
Because what's happening is people are voting with their feet.
That's exactly right. Got to ask you one more here. You're trying to end this war in Ukraine. The president's hot on that. Russia's second largest oil company is called Lukoil, which is funny because I just drove past one of those gas stations in New Jersey the other day. You've hit them with some pretty serious sanctions. Is this going to be what's needed to force Putin's hand?
Well, I think at the end of the day, it's going to be, we think of it as sources and uses, and what are the sources of Putin's revenues? It's this big oil income, and the president had enough and decided to sanction the two largest Russian oil companies, Rosneft and Lukoil, and a couple of the Kremlin proxies actually had the nerve to try to come and buy them back. Yeah. And right. I will tell you, I will say it here on national TV, if I were a banker for these Kremlin proxies, I'd be very careful, right? Because the U.S. Treasury is watching you.
Yeah, it's spun up a lot of stories in that part of the world, other countries that have Lukoil facilities and things like that.
Yeah, well, it says, they always say, follow the money, and we'll see what happens here. But President Trump, as usual, is powerful, decisive, and quick acting.
Got 10 seconds left. Do you like the job?
It's incredible.
9 months in?
Honor of a lifetime that President Trump is 21/7. Yeah. I have the busiest day I've ever had every year. It's an honor to serve the American people, and it's an honor to be with you on Veterans Day. My dad was a disabled veteran, and I love today.
I love that. The Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent. Thank you, sir.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Appreciate it. Coming up here after the break, Illinois' governor uses Veterans Day to attack common sense immigration enforcement.
Greg Bovino is a snowflake on a day when you can see some snowflakes.
All right, we've got Greg Bovino from Border Patrol coming up next. Stay tuned.
Charlie was the best of America, and the monster who attacked him was attacking our whole country.
Before Charlie Kirk died, he issued a stark warning of terrifying dangers ahead in a new book, Pagan Threat, authored by Pastor Lucas Miles. Charlie said Pagan Threat could save America and that you must read it. Get Pagan Threat free with Newsmax's special offer. Plus, get Dick Morse's new book, The Real Charlie Kirk. 2 great books with our free offer today.
As a junior in high school, life can feel overwhelming sometimes.
Balancing homework, friendships, and stuff at home isn't easy. More than ever, kids my age are facing anxiety and depression.
That's why programs like After School All-Stars matter.
They provide access to mental health support, connect us with mentors, and give us tools to succeed. Mental health is complicated.
I'm grateful people are working to support students like me.
Help our parents help us, and find solutions to this challenge.
The poverty is unimaginable. There are people who are struggling.
This is what she washes the dishes.
If you're ever going to allow your Christian faith to rise and to do something for God's chosen people, now is the time.
This is the home of Galina. She's 96 years old.
This is what she had to eat for today.
She has one pot with water and wheat.
My father was killed by the Nazis, and I was an orphan. I didn't know about God. But now, in the cold, hungry nights, I pray for food to the God I've never known. There are good people that love you.
You see the tears. Scripture says joy can come in the morning, and you can be the reason.
Right now in Ukraine, elderly Jews are trapped in unbearable poverty. If you will bless these hurting children of Israel, you will receive God's blessing in return. Your urgent gift today of $25 will help rush a survival food box filled with life-saving essentials. Call, scan, or go online now.
I'm not exaggerating when I tell you, I don't know how much longer she could have waited for us to come.
I can't even grow my food anymore. What will happen to me? I'm doomed to starve.
Tens of thousands of elderly Holocaust survivors in the former Soviet Union are living in extreme poverty, hungry, and forgotten. But through the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, we can bring them hope.
Eggs. It's my favorite food. May you be blessed.
You say to them, we see you and we're here to help.
Please don't delay. Call, scan, or go online now.
The very values that compelled you to enlist are today under attack here at home. Masked federal agents are currently terrorizing our neighbors and tear gassing innocent civilians, including children. They are harassing and detaining veterans. Unfortunately, some elected officials in Washington are tearing apart the Constitution you fought to defend.
Not sure there's a bigger fraud in this game than the man right there on the screen. Not surprising, Illinois' governor using Veterans Day as an opportunity to attack federal officers trying to clean up his borderless and lawless city of Chicago. At that same location over the weekend, you had a crowd of open border rioters throwing bricks at immigration enforcement vehicles. Then you had an illegal in a Jeep open fire on officers. Just start shooting. That suspect, an illegal from Mexico with convictions for aggravated unlawful use of a weapon and vehicle, possession of a weapon, and illegal entry into the country. This is who J.B. Pritzker is talking to, by the way, when he makes these ridiculous speeches. Despite Illinois' imbecile governor, the plan is working in Chicago. Since the start of Operation Midway Blitz in early September, carjackings are down 48%. Isn't that amazing? Imagine how terrifying it is to get carjacked. They knocked that number down by nearly half. Robberies down 41%, shootings down 35%, homicides down 16%. Greg Bovino is the Border Patrol boss on the ground in Chicago, and it appears that he will soon be moving along. CBS reporting that he's moving to Charlotte, North Carolina next for probably a similar operation. DHS says they're not leaving Chicago entirely. Pritzker attacking Bovino personally today.
While we are here standing in solidarity with one another and honoring our veterans, Gregory Bovino is out doing photo shoots, making fun of Little Village, and harassing our Chicago families. The question was about Greg Bovino and CBP possibly leaving Chicago. Whether it was the loss in the elections a week ago that's led to Donald Trump deciding to pull CBP out, or the fact that Greg Bovino is a snowflake on a day when you can see some snowflakes. Whatever it is, the people of Chicago have deserved better than having CBP and Greg Bovino in this city.
The CBP Chief Patrol Agent Greg Bovino joins us now. Sir, good to have you back on. You know, I'll lead right into it with what Pritzker just said. What is your reaction to that, and are you leaving Chicago?
Hey, Rob, good evening. It's good to see you. Thanks for having me. You know, I think if the governor thinks that I'm a snowflake, Rob, 4,000 apprehensions, closing in on 4,000 apprehensions here in Chicago, is that being a snowflake? If it is, then guilty as charged. I'm a snowflake because it's 4,000 apprehensions, and we're not stopping now. We're going to make that several thousand more apprehensions. We're making his city a safer place. You saw the statistics, carjackings, robberies, and all that down. That's what we're doing here. And as far as being a snowflake, there's a lot of snowflakes that are going to be descending on the Chicago area. We're going to blanket this city and continue that Title VIII immigration enforcement, and we're going to make it even safer. So I think we're living rent-free in the head there of the governor now. And you know what? Stay tuned. More to come.
Okay, that's fair. And just to get to the initial question, are you moving to another city? I know you guys have got a lot of cities that are in your purview that you want to fix.
Rob, we're in several cities. Border Patrol agents are in dozens of cities nationwide now. As you know, as I've led forces here at Operation Midway Blitz in Chicago, I was pulled to places like Los Angeles, Portland, Oregon, and other places. Yeah. And it's very possible that that I could go somewhere else. I go where the threat is, and wherever that threat is, I'm going to go. CBP is not leaving Chicago. We're going to be here for the long haul. We've got a lot more work to do here. As a matter of fact, Rob, my team and I are drawing up plans right now for Chicago, some very dynamic plans that it's undoubtedly that Governor Pritzker and Mayor Johnson are going to like a lot. So we're going to have some very dynamic operations set for Chicago coming up very, very soon.
Did you ever imagine we'd live in a country where the guys that are tasked with removing illegal immigrants and criminals out of cities would be fought by the leaders of those cities, that the politics would become so warped? I mean, this is a brand of politics that 20 years ago in this country, neither political party would even believe was possible.
Sure. You couldn't write a fiction book any stranger than what is happening right now. You're right, Rob. Totally. I never would have thought this would have happened, but it's here now. And you call it a warped brand of politics. I think it's pure corruption. The whole system, especially here in Chicago, is corrupt. But the good thing is you've got the good guys here, and we're going to degrade, dismantle, and disrupt this whole corrupt system, whether it's those illegal aliens, those criminal illegal aliens, or those who support that lawlessness.
Reports that the Latin Kings, like a cartel-type gang, the leaders have put out a shoot-on-sight order on CBP agents like yourself in Chicago. Talk about that, and talk about this Mexican national that was arrested for trying to shoot at your officers in Chicago over the weekend. Thankfully missing, but shots fired at your officers.
The Latin Kings and other transnational gangs are a definite threat to law enforcement, to any law enforcement, not just federal law enforcement. They're a threat to the Chicago PD, to the citizens of Chicago. And because of that, we're going into places, and when I say we, I'm talking CBP, ICE, our allied law enforcement partners are going into those roughest of rough places like Little Village, and we are rooting out. We're going up against and rooting out Latin Kings and those other transnational gangs. Yes, they do have a shoot-on-sight order out, but the men and women of the U.S. Border Patrol, ICE, and those other allied law enforcement teams still conduct that mission every day in those roughest of rough places. And we're going to win this. Come hell or high water, we're going to win this one.
It's a shame, though. I mean, if you get rid of all the criminals and the illegals in Chicago, who's going to vote for all these Democrats? I don't know how they're going to win these elections. It's going to get tricky.
Well said. I'm definitely apolitical, but you do bring a point there, is why do elected leadership, especially here in Illinois, I've never seen it quite to this point. I've worked in California, and you know what it's like out there, Rob. I've never seen it to the point like it is here, choosing not just illegal aliens, but the most vile criminal illegal aliens, the ones that shoot at federal law enforcement officers, choosing them over American citizens. Rob, something is wrong when that happens. When you have a Pritzker or a Johnson or any of the other cast of married characters there doing that, something is not quite right. But we're undeterred in our mission. We're going to accomplish this mission, and we're going to make Chicago a much safer place. Those statistics are going to keep improving.
Greg Bovino from Border Patrol. Sir, thank you for coming on. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Next up, Navy SEAL Rob O'Neill talks Veterans Day as Trump lays the wreath at Arlington, just a day after a reformed terrorist was at the White House. All of that next.
Hi, I'm Bianca Della Garza. What I love about working with Newsmax is the relationship we have with our viewers. So smart, so informed, it allows us to deliver powerful analysis, the sharpest viewpoints on the issues that really matter.
As a fighter, being on my game isn't optional. I grew up in a family of fighters, and we push each other every day. If I'm not eating right, I can't keep up, so I take my diet very seriously. Balance of Nature makes it easy to get 31 whole fruit and vegetable ingredients every single day. A good routine makes all the difference. Balance of Nature makes it easier. You can't beat that.
Hey, I'm Mike Hammond from Signal Relief. You know the holidays are meant to be about family, laughter, and taking things slow. But when you're in pain, it's hard to enjoy any of it. I know because my back has made life difficult for me. But that's why I love the Signal Relief patch. It helped me enjoy the holidays again. It helped me enjoy my family again. I've given this patch as a gift to friends, family, and even strangers in pain because I know it works. In a recent study, over 85% of people felt relief. It really doesn't matter where you hurt because the patch works, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. For a limited time, we're bringing back our largest discount ever, 50% off. So get a Signal Relief patch today. Trust me when I tell you, the patch works.
Get the life back. Okay, we're good. He's breathing. Okay.
When I saw that Ethan was not breathing, I determined that I needed to use something to remove the obstruction from his airway.
It's very important for every household to have a life vest.
Everyone should have one in their home. Anything can happen at any moment.
I want my friends and family and people that I serve to know that we have this device to potentially save lives.
Protect your family. Go to lifevac.net.
Go to lifevac.net or call 877-543-3822.
What kind of gift can $39 get you these days? It could send someone to their ancestral village and give them a taste of their heritage, from mom's side and dad's side. That's a big gift for a small price.
Your bathtub is a problem. It's outdated and unsafe. The solution, a stunning new shower from Jacuzzi Bath Remodel, installed in as little as 1 day.
For the first time ever, we're offering free fixtures and a free shower door with no interest and no payments for up to a year.
Jacuzzi offers so many modern styles with luxurious features like soft close doors. Jacuzzi delivers style and safety. Upgrade to an easy entry shower with a custom seat and durable grab shelves. Jacuzzi has been a trusted name for over 70 years, and that means quality. It is beautiful. You deserve a bathroom that's beautiful and safe. So don't wait. Call right now.
Call or go online now to jacuzzibathremodel.com. For a limited time, get free fixtures and a free shower door, plus 0 interest and 0 payments for up to 1 year.
Call 800-202-8011. That's 800-202-8011. Call now.
On Veterans Day, we honor those who have worn the uniform, who have borne the battle, who have stood to watch, and whose ranks have formed the mighty wall of flesh and blood, bravery and devotion that has defended our freedom for 250 years. To every veteran, we love our veterans. We say the words too often left unsaid. Thank you for your service.
We here at Newsmax want to thank, of course, our nation's veterans for their service, some of the best of this country over its 250 years. The president paying his respects earlier, laying the wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier at Arlington. Always an amazing moment right there on a cold day in D.C. He and the vice president also sang along to God Bless America after the wreath-laying ceremony. The president called into sports commentator Pat McAfee's show on ESPN also today and explained what today means to him, and also had 3 oorahs for our Marines. Take a listen.
To me, it means taking care of the veterans because they've taken care of us.
Mr. President, have you ever done an oorah to a bunch of Marines?
Not the kind that I just heard.
Mr. President, why don't you drop an oorah real quick?
I will. Hoorah!
Hey, why don't you give him another hoorah, Mr. President?
Hoorah! You want me to do another one? I'll do another one. Hoorah!
You're the best.
Robert O'Neill is a Navy SEAL who shot and killed Osama bin Laden and joins us on this Veterans Day. Sir, good to see you again. Hoorah! What'd you think of that?
Hoorah, I love that. Anytime you're around Marines and you drop an hoorah, you're going to get some thunder back. And I love that about the Marine Corps. I've always loved the Marine Corps. It is their birthday week. Of course, every day is the Marine Corps' birthday as far as I'm concerned. It's just really cool. They're the only branch that never really had any trouble recruiting people. They never went off message. They never left. They never went crazy. They went, if you want to become a Marine, you're a Marine and you're always will be a Marine. And that's even to their detriment. Before, they've complained about some funding and stuff just because they've refused to say any Marines were special than other Marines. So they're just a great group. Obviously, they've been around longer than the country, and I love Marines.
Yeah. What's your thoughts? I mean, obviously, we've got a president that I know that our military members are much more inspired by. It's unquestionable there. Talk about that, and also talk about, I mean, it's his foreign policy. You know, for a guy that's America first, he's very kind of engaged with the rest of the world. I wanted to know what your thoughts on that were as somebody that served.
Well, he's engaged in the Middle East because that's where all of our wars are fought for whichever reason you can assume. I mean, the bottom line is it's a lot of oil over there, and it's kind of the center of transportation for everything in the world. So a lot of stuff goes on in the Middle East. And I mean, there's no doubt that this president loves the military, and the military loves him. You can't deny that. And it's great. And I think he's definitely America first. He's trying to do the right things. It is sketch. He had the Syrian president at the White House, who's a former Al-Qaeda guy.
We can show those pictures,
Yeah, I mean, that's just nuts. I know there were some congressmen that wanted them there and people agreeing to play nice so we can have peace, but you truly got to understand what these people want, and it's not friendship. A lot of these Islamists legitimately want to take over the world. Yeah. That's not a joke, and I'm not exaggerating. That's Sharia law. I've been saying it since about 1998, since I understood it, and no one wants to believe me, but you can ask anyone right now in England.
Yeah, you certainly could. And I thought the same thing when I saw Sharad there at, in the Oval Office. But I also just knowing the man, I know how this president cannot stand Islamic Sharia, all of that. I mean, he's very wary of it. And I just have to believe that he knows exactly who this guy is. He knows this guy is a reformed terrorist. He's got an angle. There's something he's going to do with this that's going to be very valuable.
He's definitely got an angle, too. And, I mean, we've proven going over there trying to install our democracy and build them schools they don't want doesn't work. I've had dinner eating the same bowl of rice with our hands with the Taliban. Sometimes you got to negotiate different ways. And unfortunately for the American people, guess what? Everyone's not the same. So we need to do different tactics. And I'm not in these behind the scenes meetings, but whatever we've been doing hasn't been working. Maybe this is it. I'm not condoning it. I'm not saying it was great. I'm not saying it was horrible. I just be careful what you're doing and realize that a lot of people are in the long game, and it's not always us. Sometimes we play to the cycles of the elections, like the midterms coming up. Not Syria. They're playing. The Islamists are playing for the world.
Yeah, I agree with that. Rob O'Neill, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Good to see you, Rob.
All right. Veterans, a book you might be interested in here, Veteran Benefits for You by Paul R. Lawrence. Right there on the screen details the hundreds of benefits veterans and their families are eligible from the U.S. government. Paul Lawrence headed the VA benefits programs under President Trump in his first term and now serves as the Deputy Secretary of the VA. It unlocks the education, health, income, housing, and insurance, many other benefits that you should know about and you're likely eligible for. You can get it for free with an offer from Newsmax right there on the screen. Good stuff. All right, is Trump poised to destroy another fake news dynasty? Next.
From the moment Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, Newsmax was there.
We have some major breaking news. Israel launches strikes, preemptive strikes, almost 4 in the morning.
Israel has decided enough's enough.
What happened tonight was inevitable.
Well, something just caught my attention it sounds like afterburners overhead.
Reporting multiple explosions across the capital, Tehran.
I'm in a shelter now. There's 6 of us.
Benjamin Netanyahu has come out to make a statement.
Our fight is not with you. Our fight is with the brutal dictatorship
We have risen like lions to defend ourselves.
Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Whenever the biggest news breaks, Newsmax is there for you because we're real news for real people.
Talk is cheap when it comes to saving our country. We're not just any cell phone service provider. We're Patriot Mobile. It's not enough to simply talk about values. We live them. Defending life, protecting our First and Second Amendments, and celebrating our military and first responder heroes. We're boots on the ground making a difference. We're America's only Christian conservative wireless provider with nationwide coverage on all 3 major networks and 100% U.S.-based customer service. Join Patriot Mobile today and make an impact every time you use your cell phone.
I'm Elmer Heinrich, at 91 years of age with my wife Shirley, who is 83. Now both of us are still cutting a wide swath in life, all because of Immuno 150. Now neither of us have any kind of sickness, and we're as flexible as we were 30 years ago, and we still do the physical things we did 30 years ago. Now we are asking you to use Immuno 150 like we do. Give it a chance for at least 90 days so that you can see what 70 plant minerals and 80 additional nutrients can do for you. You won't believe it. Immuno 150 is an awesome nutritional supplement. There's nothing like it.
Yes, it really is incredible.
Yeah, try it. You will be surprised. Order online or call the number listed on the screen, but don't place your order until after you've watched the videos on our website. Thank you from both of us, and God bless.
What's gold is new again, pardon the pun. But considering gold has been used as currency since around 550 BC, it has been on fire the past year. I'm here with Daniel Boston, the founder of Preserve Gold. Why is gold so stable and such a good investment for many people?
Take the central bank, for example, the Federal Reserve. They print money out of thin air, and then they take that printed money to go buy hard assets like gold to protect themselves against the very risks that they're creating. So I always tell people, don't do what the big players are telling you to do. Do what they're doing themselves.
Yeah, watch what they're doing.
That's correct.
Okay. If people are interested in investing with Preserve Gold, how do they get started?
Text Newsmax to 50505 to get your free information and up to $15,000 in free gold and silver with a qualified purchase. That's right. Text Newsmax to 50505.
All right. No way you can miss it.
Welcome back. BBC, British Broadcasting, facing a possible billion-dollar lawsuit from the president for this outrageous edit of Trump's January 6th speech in a documentary that they aired 1 week before last year's election. As we all know, Trump never once called for any kind of violence on January 6th, as much as Democrats tried to find it. But BBC wanted its viewers to believe that he did. Take a look at the clip. The first part is the BBC deceptive edit, and man, is it deceptive. The second part, what Trump actually said.
To the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight. We fight like hell. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
Again, it's hard to overstate just how malicious that is. As somebody that's been in this business for a long time, I know exactly how it works. That is really, really bad. The clip airing last October on BBC's Panorama, 1 week before the election. 1 week before the election. Trump calling it exactly what it is, election interference by a foreign news outlet. BBC's Director General Tim Davie and BBC News CEO Deborah Turness both resigning in disgrace over this, because what else could they do? Turness then jumping on camera outside after leaving the office and trying to save face.
I stepped down over the weekend because the buck stops with me. But I'd like to make one thing very clear. BBC News is not institutionally biased. That's why it's the world's most trusted news provider.
Do you think the journalists
Of course our journalists aren't corrupt. Our journalists are hard-working people who strive for impartiality, and I will stand by their journalism.
Laughable, laughable answer. The chairman, Samir Shah, apologizing for an error in judgment, accepting the speech was edited to give the impression of a direct call for violent action on January 6th, exactly what they did. British outlet The Times reports the Panorama staff that show thinks it's being blown out of proportion. Really? Resigned former Director General Tim Davie told his staff, "We've got to fight for our journalism," earlier today in the face of this lawsuit. You don't even know how to spell the word, you clown. Batya, Ungar-Sargon joins us now, along with Larry Elder. Good to have you both on. Batya, what did you make of that? And I think the best part is the reaction from the people that are so clearly guilty of this.
Thank you so much for having me. It is so utterly infuriating. File this under, you think you hate the media enough, but you really, really don't. Can I tell you, today I was doing an interview, and the person, a sort of big figure on the left, said to me, "Well, what do you say about Donald Trump saying there are fine people on both sides about neo-Nazis?"
Never said it.
In the year of our Lord 2025, they still, honest to God, believe that because the media lied and lied and lied and lied on Donald Trump. It is so despicable. The BBC claiming to be impartial. Are you freaking kidding me?
You're not going to tell us who
The
said
lies
that?
they told about this president. One more thing very briefly. It recently came out that they've had to make 2 fact checks a week on their Gaza reporting. 2 fact checks a week, edits, corrections. I mean, it's so utterly ridiculous. The mainstream media is utterly, utterly lost and totally in the bag for the left.
Come on, Batya, just tell us who said that. Come on, just give it up. She doesn't want to do it. Larry, go ahead. Your thoughts.
Well, it shows you that Trump derangement syndrome is international, and added to a long list of lies told about this man. He never said drink bleach. He was referring to the issue of whether or not there should be a Confederate monument in the public square when he said there are both good people on both sides. He never mocked a disabled reporter. And they always leave out the fact that on January 6th, he said, I want you to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Same thing the so-called January 6th Insurrection Committee leaves out over and over and over again in order to attack Donald Trump. What has the man done other than give us a good economy, lower the temperature now internationally, did a peace deal between Hamas and Israel that released the hostages? Why do they hate him so much?
They just hate the way he talks, and they hate his personality. But he destroys them because it's, you know, when you have all of this anger, and then if you cheat a little bit to try and get your wish, which is to destroy the man, you've destroyed all your own credibility, and then you're left with what the Democrat Party is right now, which is just a flailing disaster. And you got Trump in the White House, and Republicans have the House and Senate. I want to get to one more thing before I let you both go, and that's this. You know, if there's any greater thing to do with Gavin Newsom, I don't know what it is, than to announce that you're going to be putting offshore drilling off the coast of California, which is what the president has announced this week, indicating that he wants to start doing it, I think, next week, Batya, and Newsom vowing to fight it with lawsuits. These people are happy to put these rusting, disgusting windmills all over our shorelines that we have to stare at, and they kill the whales and the dolphins and everything else. But God forbid you pull a little oil out of the ground, right?
And this is so important because, of course, affordability is the #1 concern for voters right now. And this shows really that the president is laser focused on bringing down costs, which is, of course, what he has to be in order to keep the House for the Republicans in the midterms.
Yeah, exactly. Larry, your thoughts. It's your state.
Well, I'm going to say that I'm in California, and I can tell you we have the highest gas prices in the country, including Hawaii, that has to ship in oil. So, you know, we used to be headquartered to all top 10 oil and gas companies. Now we're headquartered to none. So once again, President Trump is doing something about affordability. And once again, the Democrats are doing everything they can to make things less affordable.
Yeah.
What a shock.
Yeah, what a shock. And I'd rather see an oil rig than that thing out there killing birds and dolphins and whales all day long. And what do you call it? You call it a bird? You want to see a bird cemetery? Go check out a windmill farm. One of the better lines. Good to see you both. Batya, Larry, thanks,
Thank you
guys.
so much.
Appreciate
God
it.
bless.
All right. It's been 2 months since Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Pagan Threat, with a foreword from Charlie, is at the top of the New York Times bestseller list, confronting America's godless uprising. You can check the book out right there on the screen. Free offer from Newsmax. All right. All in the family when it comes to Big Tish.
I lost 110 pounds. You couldn't tell at all because of my excess skin. Sono Bello changed that in one visit.
Introducing the new Lift EX, the just one visit total body transformation everyone is talking about.
I am super happy with my results.
I decided to give Sono Bello a try. Look at me, I have a silhouette. You can see my waist.
Lift EX is Sono Bello's breakthrough 360-degree body lift alternative. Our body contouring experts sculpt, tighten, and lift your stomach, waist, thighs, and backside, all in just one visit with less downtime.
Sono Bello targeted the areas diet exercise could not do. I found me again.
Sono Bello has over 50,000 five-star reviews, and Lift EX is exclusively available at Sono Bello, America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist. Book your free, personalized consultation today. Easy monthly plans make your best body more affordable than ever.
This year is my year thanks to Sono Bello.
Call Sono Bello for your free consultation today.
You've put up with your old shower for too long. It's outdated, unsafe, and it's time to replace it. But why struggle with a lengthy shower remodel when Jacuzzi can do it in just one day? And there's no need to break a sweat or your budget.
For a limited time, get free fixtures and a free shower door, plus 0 interest and 0 payments for up to 1 year.
So you can finally convert your old bath to a safer, easy entry shower, complete with a custom seat, grab bars, and slip-resistant floor installed in 1 day.
My overall experience with Jacuzzi has been wonderful. Everything was customized to the way I wanted it for the price that I wanted to pay.
I've had a great experience from start to finish.
Don't take matters into your own hands. Do it the smart way. Give Jacuzzi Bath Remodel a call.
Call or go online now to jacuzzibathremodel.com. For the first time ever, we're offering free fixtures and a free shower door, plus 0 interest and 0 payments for up to 1 year.
Call 800-201-9527, 800-201-9527. Call now.
Think of all the places that could expose you to identity theft and financial loss. It only takes one mistake at your bank, hospital, or employer for a criminal to gain access to your personal information. And if they do, you and your money are at risk.
I thought I'd be the last person on earth this would happen to.
It was devastating. $110,000 of my hard-earned money gone.
1 in 3 U.S. consumers have been a victim of identity theft. Are you willing to risk your financial future? With LifeLock, if your identity is compromised, we'll step in and fix it so you don't have to, guaranteed. Our dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialists handle your case from start to finish. They contact institutions on your behalf, dispute fraudulent charges, close compromised accounts, and even procure legal support, far beyond the capabilities of your bank or credit card company.
The bank didn't help me. The police department didn't help me. It was LifeLock who had my back on all this.
I was handled and taken care of. I didn't have to do anything.
In fact, we're so confident that restoration is guaranteed. Plus, LifeLock offers the $1 Million Protection Package with reimbursement up to $1 million for stolen funds, experts and lawyers, and out-of-pocket expenses, up to $3 million in total.
When I opened my mail and I had a check from LifeLock, I just started crying. They made me whole.
Act now to save 35% off an annual plan for your first year. Your membership includes identity monitoring and alerts, a dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist, and the LifeLock $1 Million Protection Package. Don't face identity theft alone. Protect your future and finances with LifeLock, the leader in identity theft protection. Call 1-800-649-0629 or visit lifelock.com/35save to save 35% on your first year. Call 1-800-649-0629.
Welcome back. Time now for news from the left. Big Tish, New York's top chief law enforcement officer, appears to have a family with absolutely no respect for the law, which makes perfect sense. New York Post reporting the 2 houses at the center of her legal troubles have a lot of police activity. Cops summoned to the residences on multiple occasions ever since her serial crook grandniece, Nakia Thompson, moved in. Police go in there to issue warrants and subpoenas, obviously for the case at hand, but also incidents involving vandalism, domestic issues, and suspicious persons. Let's not forget, this is the same grandniece wanted in Forsyth County, North Carolina, for failing to finish her probation in a case where she was charged with malicious conduct by a prisoner and assault of a government official and resisting a police officer. And from that, we get to the point of this. If you look at these attorney generals that have been installed all over this country by the radical left, they are not there to enforce the law. They are there to destroy the law from within. That is why these people have been put in these places. That's why Letitia James exists. That's why people like Soros put them in these places, because the whole idea is to destroy this country, destabilize the country, make people think less of the country, make people question the country. And you get that by destroying law and order in the country, which is exactly what they do. She spends all her time attacking the president. She doesn't care about the crime in this state. And there's your proof. Look at her family. Next up, Kamala describes her election strategy against Trump.
I was aware of my opponent's strategy. Part of his strategy and those around him was to try and take me off our game and message. My highest priority, which was talking to people about the economy and their well-being in terms of their financial well-being. I understood the game that was being played, and I made a decision that I wasn't going to get played.
It wasn't going to get played. But also your plan was to talk about the economy that you had just completely destroyed for the last 4 years. Is it any surprise that the election went the way that it did? And finally, I don't know why I feel compelled to show you this tonight, but the two weirdest women alive have made a sequel to the film Wicked. Let's take a listen.
Yellow.
For me?
Sunshine. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
And like also, I think there's also purple.
That was very good. I see like a ciel bleu, you know, like
Thank
aqua.
you. Wow,
And
I'm
like,
so moved by that response.
so specific,
This
isn't
is
it?
so-
Sorry, it's very specific. And like sunset orange.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
What do you see in us?
What do you see? Let me know on X. I'll keep my mouth shut. Coming up, this little twerp on the left's got a big mouth. Stay tuned.
Closed captioning brought to you by Magna Life Relaxing Leg Cream PM for a good night's sleep.
The discomfort in your legs at night is real. Here's what real customers have to say about Magna Life Relaxing Leg Cream. It's a lifesaver if you have restless legs.
Available at your local retailer.
People always ask, why Patriot Gold Group? With over 10,000 clients to date and over $1 billion in transactions, not a single complaint on the Better Business Bureau. Consumer Affairs top rated for 9 years in a row. Over 2,000 5-star reviews. The only company nationwide where you, the client, work directly with an owner. Home of the no fee for life IRA. Gold is up 80% in the last 28 months, 275% since Lehman Brothers collapsed. We are patriots protecting patriots. Give Patriot Gold Group a call at 888-528-4290 before it's too late. Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold and silver dealer 9 years in a row. Call now, 888-528-4290.
A peace plan for Gaza. For the plan to advance, Hamas must disarm. Instead,
tonight, terrifying images emerging from Gaza. Videos show Hamas-linked gunmen carrying out a public execution as they return to the streets.
Hamas on a rampage, executing Palestinians, bloody crackdown, spreading terror. For freedom, not terror, Hamas must go.
Oh, why does my back hurt every morning? I stretch, I cold plunge. I even invested in a $5,000 mattress.
Well, you sit on this all day.
How did you get in my house?
The only way to fix your pain is to fix your sit. The Anthros chair is built around the true science of sitting.
Okay, but my chair has lumbar support?
Lumbar is a low bar when it comes to judging how a chair supports you. Research shows the real foundation of a healthier sit is pelvis support. That's why we created our patented precision posture system that supports the upper and lower spine independently based on your specific body shape.
Nice. 2 for 1.
With your pelvis supported, you can experience pain relief in your back, neck, and hips, improved posture, and the ability to sit through even the longest of work calls just to unmute and say,
nope, nothing from my end.
Fixing how you sit is the easiest healthy habit you can build. Try the Anthros chair, risk-free for 60 days.
Finally tonight, this little kid that you see all over X is just such a little twerp, and he has gone on a full tirade against one of the most impressive people in this country, our vice president.
J.D. Vance is such a
loser. He is such a loser. He's one of those insecure men I just described earlier. And I think, Jennifer, you described him as like, a failed drag queen. I hate JD Vance, and so I've certainly had it with his dumb costume, his dumb face, and everything he does. But I'm not bitter.
JD Vance, horrible childhood, mom a drug addict, writes a bestseller, studies hard, Yale, Marines, then a senator, then a vice president. Harry Sisson, what's your resume look like? Oh, nothing. You've done nothing. Finnerty.
Yeah, J.D. Vance, not part of that whole Yale thing, by the way. You know the Yale thing I'm talking about. Rob, thank you.